Jake Fromm is going to the NFL. Head coach at North Carolina, Roy Williams, goes way too far, and there will be an upset in the NFL playoffs this weekend. I've got it for you. You want to stay tuned for that. You have found the show that helps you be smarter than your friends when it comes to sports. You're in the first round. Let's start the show.
You're tuned in to the hottest sports analysis of the week with your hosts Ron Dolbeck and Chris Roberts. And now, here's the first round.
Oh, you're in the first round live here on a Wednesday. There is so much going on in the world of sports. I'm pumped up. I got my little drink ready to go. We've got the basketball up here because we're fading away from football. We're fading into basketball. Still have LSU hitting there, and there's a $100 bill on the set. That's going to be coming up. Chris, welcome Chris Rogers into the set here in our St. Jude studios. What's going on today, Chris?
There's a lot of stuff going on, Ron. I'm really trying to figure out. I'm looking at the SEC landscape of how things are changing with these quarterbacks moving, going to the pros. I mean, we have Tua announcing leaving and going to the pros, and as you just announced, you have Jake Fromm leaving. So I'm looking at the landscape of how things are going to be in the SEC next year.
Speaking of things in the SEC, I've got a Crown and Coke right here. More Crown than Coke, and believe me, after today, I need it. There are a lot of things going on still in college football. I'm actually starting to look forward to the draft. And we have a lot of stuff to talk about with the NFL playoffs. Let's do what we always do and get it started right now with the biggest stories going on in this world of sports. It's got to start with my favorite team, the New England Patriots. Tom Brady comes out on Instagram today and says, I have a lot more to prove. I don't know what there is to prove, but this guy is super driven. I mean, all he does is football and a supermodel that he's married to, which is awesome. But there's all kinds of talk of where he's going to go. I even heard speculation today about going to San Diego. I mean, are you out of your mind? I can't see a place where A, he's going to retire, and B, he's going to go to San Diego. There's a lot of options out there. Chris and I will talk about that. New coaches all over in college, in pro football. Dallas, the G-Men in New York, Carolina, and the hapless Redskins all pick up new coaches. We'll get into that. NFL playoffs. This is a great weekend, the second biggest weekend, I think, of the year. Minnesota goes on the road to San Francisco. San Francisco's giving 7. I'm going to break that game down. Tennessee going on the road to Baltimore. Does Tennessee have a chance to win in Baltimore this weekend? We'll talk about it, but I just gave you the answer. There is going to be one huge upset this weekend. I'm going to have it for you. Texas goes on the road. Chiefs laying 9.5 at home. I will get into that and tell you why I think the Chiefs are going to be super strong. And Seattle goes on the road. Sunday night, the late Fox game in prime time to Green Bay. It's going to be 21 degrees and 40% chance of snow. College football news. Georgia, what a rough day if you're a Bulldogs fan. First of all, Jake Fromm says bye-bye to Georgia and hello to a paycheck. He's off to the NFL. I think he's a second-round guy. Chris and I will talk more about that. Also from Georgia, sophomore offensive lineman Cade Mays is going into the transfer portal to Tennessee. Why? It might have something to do with the fact that his brother Cooper just signed to play at Tennessee. He'll be there next year. Georgia also lost running back, 5-star guy, number 1 running back coming out of Texas, Zachary Evans. Not a good day for Georgia. They'll rebuild, though. I think that Kirby's got them moving in the right direction. How about San Diego State? Brady Hoke takes over to replace Rocky Long as the Aztecs head coach. That'll start next year. Bowl records. SEC, ACC, Big 10, and Big 12. Who did the best in bowl season? Chris and I are going to cover it for you. It's pretty obvious, though. Men's hoops. Kentucky, in a big game for Georgia last night, gets the win. 78-69, beats the Bulldogs. Florida, 81-68 over South Carolina. Florida is starting to turn the channel and move in the right direction. They're coming in at 10-4 now. How about in the AP poll? San Diego State, undefeated and ranked number 7 in the country, and exactly no one outside of San Diego knows that the Aztecs have a team, understands that they're undefeated or possibly ranked, or even gives a hoot that they're ranked in the top 10. I care. Chris and I are going to talk about that, and Roy Williams said something on Sunday he absolutely never should have said. We'll talk about that. And having said that, Chris, I've made it through another Autumn Thunder breakdown. I'm going to start with a You're going to have to forgive me, man. I'm having dinner on the set.
I see that, man. I see. It looks like you might need to go to one of my hole-in-the-wall spots in Tallahassee to get you a good drink, man.
Well, what's a good one in Tallahassee if I want to? I mean, are we talking like a dive?
No, we're not talking about a dive, guy, but we're talking about a grown-ups club called the Top Flight. You got to check it out next time you're in Tallahassee, man.
What kind of club is this?
Man,
is this a gentleman's club?
No, it's not a gentleman's club.
I don't want to go to a gentleman's club.
It's not a gentleman's club.
What is it?
Man, it's a club for 25 and up. I mean, no little young 21 and younger kids, so you good. So.
You know, the sad thing about living in a college town is everything is low key. There's no 4 and 5 star places to eat. There's no good restaurants. If you walk into a bar, you're getting, some Russian vodka in a plastic cup with no ice. I mean, you want to know why I'm in Vegas all the time? That's one of the main reasons. Because I'm in a college town where there isn't zip-de-doo to do.
I'm telling you, the wings are the best, man.
Where?
Top Flight, man. I'm telling you, it's a hole-in-the-wall spot in Tallahassee.
Okay, we got to hit it someday.
Yes, we do.
Speaking of hitting it someday, how about Tom Brady comes out today on Instagram and says, I have a lot more to prove, and all the swirling speculation about where he's going to land. So, first of all, last week, I came out and said he's not retiring.
Right.
And there are some people out there in the Twitter sphere that kept bombing and he's done, he's gone, blowing up my phone. A lot of it was because the Patriots didn't score more points than Tennessee, and that's about as far as I'm willing to admit that game went. Talking about he's going to retire and he's leaving the Patriots. He comes out today and pretty much says he's not retiring. Now, let's get to the part about him leaving the Patriots. Is there any scenario where you can see him leaving? I've heard about Tom Brady going to San Diego. I don't think that's a good fit. San Diego's not heading in the right direction. So you're going to get rid of a decent guy in Phillip Rivers and replace him with an almost equally old guy who's not at the top of his game anymore.
Right.
Indianapolis doesn't make sense to me. They've got Jacoby Brissett there. He's already been with the Patriots. So why would Brady go there? I heard Tampa Bay. Can you see Tom Brady in a Tampa Bay uniform ever on this planet? I mean,
no.
Tom Brady wearing an orange sickle. No. I mean, I can't even get that into my head, let alone if I ever did, I'd have to get it immediately out of my head. And then another name that was kicked around there was the Dolphins. No. I can't see that happening either. Brian Flores. Oh, and Cleveland.
Oh, definitely not.
Cleveland was mentioned on ESPN today by the world-class idiot of all idiots. But we know almost 95% metaphysical certitude that he's not leaving New England. Where do you see Tom Brady landing next year?
If I'm looking at a good landing spot for Tom Brady, I would say Atlanta would probably be the best thing because they have the offensive weapons with Julio Jones. And
Matty Ice is still under a huge contract there.
If I had a choice between Matty Ice and Brady, I'm trying to move Matty Ice because to me, Matty Ice hasn't proven that he can take a team who has, a perennial, Pro Bowler, on his team. You have Julio Jones there. You have Calvin Ridley there. I mean, you have Devontae Freeman at running back.
Right.
You have weapons all around him, and to me, he hasn't proven that he can utilize those weapons. So if I'm Tom Brady, Atlanta would be a prime spot for me. I mean, if they can go ahead and try to move.
Moving Matty Ice with that huge contract, I don't see that happening. Yeah. Why is it becoming more and more of a conversation the last couple of days that he won't even just stay in New England? Because what I would do is I would sign him to a 2-year, $30 million a year contract that's not going to kill me on the cap. Mm-hmm. And in 2 years, I've got 2 years to bring Jared Stidham along. Right. Or go out and move up next year in the draft to get Trevor Lawrence. Maybe move up in the draft this year to get Justin Herbert, who's been mentioned to be going to Carolina. So maybe you move up to get Justin Herbert. Bring him along for 2 years. I don't want whoever we're bringing in anyway to be just thrown into the mix the first year. That never works out. So why is there even a discussion that seems to be more strongly towards him leaving than staying? Isn't him staying more of an option?
Well, it's more of an option, but you have to look at the history of New England itself. New England has a habit of
they'll get rid of you 2 years before. But this is different.
I mean,
he's the icon player. This
mean,
isn't Richard Seymour
but I mean,
on the wrong side of 33, and you let him go to the Raiders for draft picks.
But I mean, you just have to look at the history of Bill Belichick. I understand that this is Tom Brady, but
Right? Do you think the Krafts would ever do that?
I don't think the Krafts.
Robert Kraft already came out on Sunday and said we absolutely want him back here. We're begging, we're praying he comes back.
Right.
So I can't see a scenario where they let him go, and I don't care what Bill Belichick says. He could say, I want Tom to go, and, Robert Kraft's going to be like, listen, break the Prozacs in half tomorrow morning. We're not letting him go. If there's any way we can keep him, then we'll keep him. So to me, the most logical, most probable outcome is that he's not going to retire, and he comes back to New England, signs a 2-year deal, 25 to 30-year base pay for the next 2 years.
Right.
And then you absolutely have to bring somebody in and start grooming him.
Yeah, you do, but at the same time, I mean, if you're Tom Brady, I mean, at this juncture in your stage, are you really going to give New England a discount? I mean, in order to play, because
him and Giselle have $600 million. What do you need? $600 million.
I understand that, but
you know how many WalMarts you can buy with $600 million?
I understand that, but at the same time, you got to think. I mean, Brady's been taking haircuts on his contracts for years.
Yeah, and here's the thing: there's a lot of stuff going on when it comes to New England, because you've got Tom Brady and Giselle putting their house up on the market. But who else is putting his house up on the market? Tom Brady's trainer has his house up on the market. Yeah. Here's the other thing. Tom Brady's a free agent. I just can't see. And does he want to come back if they have a new offensive coordinator there? If Josh McDaniels leaves,
right, that's another question.
That's even maybe more motivation for him to walk away?
Exactly. I mean, these guys have been a tandem for years. Josh, when he went out to Denver,
right?
They did pretty well. But I mean, this has been the team. Belichick, Josh Daniels, and Tom Brady. That trio has they've won championships together for a long time.
Right.
So I mean, that would be something to think about.
I don't know if Josh McDaniels is going to go anywhere. I know that he was on the top of 3 or 4 teams list as the hot candidate.
Right.
But let's talk about all those coaching positions that were open that no longer are. We'll start with Dallas. Last week, I told you Mike McCarthy is the man. You know what I ended up hearing? That I was crazy and out of my mind. Guess who they announced as the head coach today? Mike McCarthy. So that spot's filled. Let's go to the G-Men, New York Giants.
Yeah.
They'd pick up wide receiver head coach from the New England Patriots, Joe Judge. That's kind of a stretch for me, but he's a disciplinarian. Right. He's also a player's coach, and that's what I think that they need in New York right now is they need some no-nonsense guy to come in there and, right. It starts with talent. Dave Gettleman is the main problem there with the Giants. I mean, you just laugh when I say his name. But when they got rid of Pat Shurmur, I would have thought Dave Gettleman's holding the door for him, and then they're just going to put some Crisco on the floor and push Dave Gettleman out the door, which they should have done. Because if you can't sit there and bring in a brand new head coach who's been an OC most of his career, right, and then not have a good talent base there, their defensive line and their defensive secondary is absolutely abysmal. Yeah. It's time for Eli to go. You just got to give it to Daniel Jones, which I said at the beginning of the year. And you have a good base on offensive line. And, Saquon Barkley is a great foundational piece. You might want to start picking up offensive linemen there because Nate Solder's got about 1 year left, and then it's, Katie by the door with him. So, Carolina Panthers, a job opens up there. Ron Rivera leaves. And they pick up Matt Rule today. He has a 7-year deal for $60 million. I think that's a heck of a long deal for somebody that's never done it. Yeah. He turned around Temple. He turned around Baylor. Took them both to double-digit wins within 3 years. But I think $60 to $70 million over that long time. What happens in 3 years and it's not working out? By the way, who's your quarterback? Will Grier? Are you going with Cam Newton? I'm not buying either of those. And then we get to the hapless Washington, D.C. Redskins, ran by one of the worst owners in sports, Daniel Snyder. And for some reason, Ron Rivera takes the job there and will become the sacrificial lamb because, once again, you can bring in a smart NFL head coach guy who knows what he's doing, but he has absolutely nothing around him. Dwayne Haskins is young. By the way, who are their wide receivers? You can't keep your offensive linemen happy. Adrian Peterson can only last so long. He takes a crutch out there. He has his AARP card as he's walking through the tunnel to go out on the field.
Yeah.
And the defense is not that great. So he takes that position.
Yeah. So I'm looking at all of these coaching changes. And
which is the best one? Who hit the home run?
The home run, well, I can't say he hit a home run, but I say Dallas hit a triple by getting Mike McCarthy.
Yeah.
I think it was a good pickup. Hopefully he can help Dak Prescott. He does have a record of helping quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm. Because he got along with Aaron Rodgers really good.
Well, no, just actually helping them, maturation with going on with their mechanics and whatnot.
Yeah.
I mean, he helped Aaron Rodgers with his footwork. As you can go back and look at a lot of Dak Prescott's passes, and you see he has bad footwork, or he's his footwork is very lazy. Mm-hmm. So I think, by bringing in Mike McCarthy, it can help Dak Prescott.
You're bringing a guy who's won a Super Bowl. He knows how to win divisions. He was a player's coach, except for with Aaron Rodgers up in Green Bay.
Right.
He's had multiple seasons where he had double-digit wins, and this is another guy that all he does is football. Here's my concern with Dallas. You go to Dak Prescott, who has won exactly one playoff game in his career. One. Right. Okay? He gets offered $30 million and turns his nose up and says he's insulted by that, and he's not going to take anything less than 35, even though he's demanding 40. $40 million for a guy who's ranked about 15th in the NFL. I mean, I can name 10 guys off the top of my head I'd rather have as a quarterback than him. And here's the problem. If you give him one penny over $30 million, how are you going to pay Amari? There's this thing called a cap. And they're going to go over the cap. And it's not like baseball where you pay a luxury tax. You can't sign him. So now, you lost Beasley last year. You lost Dez Bryant 2 years before that. Now you're going to lose Amari. And who are you going to throw to? Zeke is going to be out at wide receiver in the slot. Who's your wide receiving core? Who's he going to throw to?
No, I
Randall Cobb's getting old.
No, I doubt if they do that. If I'm Dallas, I'm slapping a franchise on deck and I'm paying Amari and getting it out the way. Looking at, hiring Mike McCarthy, though, he does have a proven history of winning. Mm-hmm. And check out his playoff wins. Guess who is the only coach that has a higher winning percentage than Mike McCarthy? Right
Bill
now?
Belichick?
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, we have somebody that's a proven winner in the postseason, which is what Dallas is trying to do. So I think that was he's a good pickup for Dallas.
125-77 his professional record in the NFL. I think he's a solid coach. Yeah. I just think he has to go in there and just have an attitude of I'm not taking crap from anybody. We're going to run the ship this way. I mean, Jason Garrett just rolled over too much. They would implode on the field, and he would just stand on the sidelines emotionless. Sometimes you got to take the headset off and throw it at somebody to get people's attention. 5 games left in the season. You're in control of yourself, even though you have a losing record. You're in control of your own destiny, and you still implode, and you let the Philadelphia Eagles win the division. You don't even make the playoffs, and you end up with a losing record. They held, I can't get into Dallas anymore. I said last week, I think they're one solid head coach away. My only concern with Dallas right now is you can't pay, you franchise tag Dak, that's fine. He's still got to be one of the top 5 paid quarterbacks in the NFL. You're not going to have enough money to sign Amari. Amari's not giving you a hometown discount on this dyslexic team here that's just, crazy. He doesn't know if it's going to get whipped into shape. He's not going to take a discount with them. He could go to New England and pick up a check knowing that his chances of winning are a lot better. Or San Francisco. There's a lot of teams out there that could use him. How about Green Bay? They're one wide receiver from being, a dominant team again. So I don't see the path to getting Dak paid after you paid Zeke, after you paid your top linebacker and your defensive number 1 defensive rusher. You pay Dak and you're going to have money for Amari. It doesn't matter. I don't see it happening. Amari's not going to take $10 or $12 million a year when he can go someplace else. That's a contender and pick up $15 to $18 million a year.
Well, it just depends on, sometimes it's maybe it's not about the money. It depends on if he loves the Dallas area or not. I don't know what,
right.
What may be the case in point with Amari. So, if this is something where he likes this team, maybe, he take the discount now and they go back and renegotiate later on.
Yeah, I don't see him taking the discount. I think he's going to move on next season, and they're going to have awesome positions at linebacker, fairly good at quarterback, great offensive line, great running back, and then you get to wide receiver, and it's like, you know.
But this is the thing with Amari too. I mean, with other teams, what you have to look at too with Amari is he doesn't stay healthy the whole season, so that may come into play as well as with him staying with Dallas, because other teams are going to look at that, and other teams may not want to pay him what he wants anyway.
I think that he can take the top off of any DB or corner in the league. He's a deep threat. A lot of places need that. I mean, why are the Patriots out of the playoffs? I can make a good argument. They didn't have a deep threat this year, and if Amari was there, they'd probably still be playing. But we'll see how that pans out. That's not even the biggest news in the NFL. The biggest news is the playoff games. Let's get to them right now. Minnesota goes on the road to San Francisco. I went 4-0 against the spread last week in NFL games.
Did you really?
What do you mean, did I really? Look at you. You're such a, you're a piece of work, pal. 4-0 against the spread in the playoffs. You can't even give me a little bit of love for that. San Francisco's given 7 points. This is one of my teaser specials. I was 14-2 on my teasers. Here's the thing. The last 5 games, both of these teams are 3-5 in the last 5 games.
Okay.
San Francisco's had a week off. I like that. Safety, Jerron Kearse and Stephon Diggs are questionable for Minnesota. They had to play last weekend. I think that when teams play in that first wild card weekend and then move on to play a divisional championship or the divisional champion like San Francisco, you got to travel back, travel out to San Francisco. I think you're tired. You're coming off of a high. You have all the endorphins rushing.
Right.
Having said that, I'm taking Minnesota plus the 7 on a teaser. Give me the 13 points.
Ooh.
I'm taking Minnesota plus 13.
Really?
I'm really taking it. Yeah, of course.
Oh, wow.
San Francisco. What have we talked about with San Francisco all year long? What's the most dominant thing about San Francisco?
Their defense.
Their defense. Ray Boom Boom, I'm going to need some more whatever was in here. In the last 5 games, let's talk about San Francisco's defense. They've given up 21, 31, 29, 46, and 20. Is that dominant?
No.
Is that the way you want to end the season for your dominant defense?
No.
I don't think so either. And I think that Minnesota has found a groove. I talked about this last week. I said, you use Dalvin Cook in the run game to open up the pass. That's exactly what they did in New Orleans. They got out of there with the win. I had Minnesota plus the points there. You had New Orleans.
New Orleans, yeah.
I just wanted to. I couldn't remember. Yeah, I couldn't remember who you picked.
Yeah.
So listen, that's a lot of points to give up. 21, 31, 29, 46, and 20. I think this is going to be a tight game. I think Kirk Cousins is right there. I think he's right there and ready. He's healthy.
Really?
Yep, I think he's healthy. I think Adam Thielen had an ankle injury today in practice. I think he's going to play. I think Stephon Diggs has an illness. I think he's going to play. And I'm going the other way with it. I'm taking Minnesota on a teaser plus the points.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
Yeah, you surprised me there, man. I was thinking the same thing, but you surprised me, man.
Get out of here. You're not taking. Are you taking Minnesota?
Seriously. I mean, because I'm looking at that game last week. They made a believer out of me last week. Mm-hmm. When I looked at Dalvin Cook, the way he ran the ball last week, I looked
possessed.
Yes, and he showed me why he was my guy. But anyway,
yeah, it has nothing to do with the fact that he went to Florida State because you're a homer.
Another story,
right?
But yeah, he ran the ball really, really well. Then you look at you had Stephon Diggs, but you had Alan Thielen that has come back from injury that played really well last week. And then on top of that, you have Kyle Rudolph, the X factor, who people really don't think about is being one of the best tight ends in the league. So I mean, with those threats there, your guy has really made a believer out of me. Your quarterback,
Kirk Cousins.
Kirk Cousins, yeah.
I think Minnesota keeps it close. I'm not saying they will win the game, but I'm taking the points. I've got 2 teaser specials, and then I've got 2 straight up bets, straight up money line bets, no points. Let's go to Tennessee at Baltimore. Baltimore's laying 10 points. They got a week off. We don't know if Mark Ingram's going to play. If he does, I don't know if he's 100%. Quite frankly, I really don't even care. He went for over 1,000 yards rushing, but guess who else did? Your quarterback, Lamar Jackson, went for over 1,200 yards. Tennessee, this is one of those cases where I'm sliding it into that groove where they just made the playoffs. They're on this endorphin high after going to Gillette, beating the Kings. They've knocked the castle down, and now they got to go to Baltimore. It's just way too much. I think I'm taking Baltimore on a money line parlay. I'm taking two teams. Baltimore's one of them. I'm not going to lay any points. I'm just taking the money line. They're minus 440, and I'm taking Baltimore straight up against Tennessee.
I'm taking Baltimore with the points, man. I looked at that.
You're going to give 10 points?
I'm going to give the 10 points, man.
I mean, they could cover it.
I'm going to give Baltimore with the 10 points.
But listen, when it comes to betting, 20% of something is better than 100% of nothing.
Yeah.
And if I don't have to lay the points,
I'm gonna take the point. I'm gonna take the points. I mean, simply because I'm looking at Tennessee last week. You had Ryan Tannehill, who only threw for 72 yards. 72 yards is not going to get it done against.
Right, they're totally one-dimensional.
Exactly. It's not going to get it together against Baltimore. And then, you have Derrick Henry. Yeah, Derrick Henry, he ran up against the Patriots, but they don't have enough to get it done for me. I'm taking Baltimore with the 10 points. I just don't see it.
I do too. I think Tennessee is one-dimensional. I think Baltimore's defense is giving up about 12.5 points a game. Their offense is scoring 33 points a game. And this is what I really love about Baltimore. On passing, they're averaging 201 yards a game. Rushing, they're averaging 206. You don't know what's coming at you. That's very, very balanced. And you know what? Lamar Jackson, I hate to be the old broken record, but he is the X factor.
Yeah.
If everything breaks down and you cover all the matchups that you possibly can, it still doesn't matter because how are you going to cover him? I mean, he's just like a pinball machine. He's just a zigzag.
I mean, you can't really spy him because the guy he has track speed. So.
Yeah, 1,206 yards rushing, 6.9 yards a carry, 7 touchdowns. I think it's too much. Everybody's talking about, well, Mark Ingram's not going to be there if he's not 100%. You know what? You could put Mark Ingram. I'm going to say right now, Mark Ingram doesn't even play in this game, and it doesn't even matter if he plays in this game. Gus Edwards is a decent backup runner. They've got Justice Hill, who's also a backup running back there. And you've got Lamar Jackson as your number one backup running back. So that to me is all that I need to know. Tennessee on offense, like you said, is one-dimensional. I think they're going to put 7, 8, and 9 guys in the box. They're going to have exotic blitzing schemes. And you're relying on Ryan Tannehill to go into Baltimore. Ryan Tannehill, for crying out loud. And who is he throwing to? I mean, they've got A.J. Brown and Corey Davis. Combined, they barely made it to 1,600 yards on the season. Yeah, Corey Davis was supposed to be like this savior at wide receiver for Tennessee, and he had less than 700 yards, catching this year. So where is the threat on the offensive side of the ball for Tennessee outside of Derrick Henry? I just think they're way, way, way too one-dimensional.
I think so too. I mean, and even though Mike Vrabel, he's turned out to be a really, really good coach. I just think that they don't not in this game.
No, and I'm taking Baltimore on a money line bet. I'm parlaying that with the next game. Houston Texans go on the road, getting 9.5 at the Chiefs. I'm going with the Chiefs straight up. I'm not laying any points, so I'm taking the Chiefs and Baltimore just to win. That's my play on the weekend. I'm not taking this is the Sunday 3 o'clock game. I'm not laying any points. I'm just taking them straight up to win. I actually, let's play the same game that we did with San Francisco. When I say Kansas City, you think of what?
Offense.
You think of offense. Let's look a little deeper into what defensive coordinator Steve Spagnuolo has done in the last 5 games with Kansas City's defense. They've given up 21, 3, 3, 16, and 9 points.
That's scary, man.
That's what their defense has done. For a defense that's usually on the back of a milk carton that you can't find. That's what Steve Spagnuolo's defense has done. 21, 3, 3, 16, and 9. That's pretty awesome. Not to mention the fact that you've got a healthy Patrick Mahomes. Everybody's healthy. Sammy Watkins, Tyreek Hill, Kelsey. You've got a good running back in Williams, and Shady McCoy can come in and give you spot time. They're averaging over 28 points a game on offense right now. I think their defense is rising up at the right time. I think their offense is just like a well-oiled machine right now. And I think, again, Houston is coming off a very emotional home victory And offensively, I think they're going to hold them under 21 points. KC will hold Houston under 21 points. I don't think Houston can do the same thing. Even though Merciless is awesome, J.J. Watt is back. I don't know if he's 100% back. Even at 80%, he's a force. I think it's too much. I'm taking Baltimore, and I'm taking KC on a money line bet. Both of them cover at home.
Well, I'm taking Kansas City to win the game as well.
Minus the 9.5?
Minus the 9, yeah.
Wow, you're going out on a limb with the points. All right,
Yeah.
why?
I'm looking at Kansas City, and again, looking at all the weapons that they have. I mean, they have had time off to get Tariq Hill healthy. You've had time to mend up Travis Kelce, and as well, I mean, he's getting everybody healthy, and then on top of that, you have to look at the X factors too. I mean, Kansas City still has other weapons that's out there. I mean, besides Tariq Hill,
right?
Besides Sammy Watkins, and besides Travis Kelce.
Home field advantage.
I mean, you have all of these things going well, and as you just mentioned, I mean, their defense is playing good as well. I mean, you look at this, and I'm just looking forward to. I should be looking ahead, but I'm just looking forward to see Patrick Mahomes going against Lamar Jackson because these other teams, I don't see them beating either one of those teams.
Yeah, I can't see the path to where Tennessee wins. I see somewhat of a path because Houston already went into KC earlier in the year, but I think that was a different KC team.
Right.
I think this is going to be a playoff offense. I think KC's still bent from losing in the AFC Championship last year to the Patriots.
Yes.
I mean, that was the moment that they had to grab the golden ring, and it didn't happen. And I think that most of the guys on that team are focused veterans who are on a mission. I think KC gets it done at home. I told you I had an upset for you, and this is the upset of the week. Seattle goes into Green Bay getting 4.5 points. I am taking Seattle plus the points. I think they win the game outright at Green Bay. It's the Sunday game on Fox, the primetime game. It's at 6:40. Kickoff is going to be 21 degrees, 40% chance of snow. I don't think really any of that matters. The only advantages that I see that Green Bay has is they have a home field advantage and they've had rest. I don't think that's enough to overcome Seattle. When I break down everything on both sides of the fence, I can look at Matt LaFleur, who is a rookie head coach, or I could get Pete Carroll. I'm going to go with Pete Carroll. I could take Aaron Rodgers, or I could take Russell Wilson. They're both... I don't know if you can even put Aaron Rodgers as a dual threat quarterback anymore, but Russell's arm is completely as good as Aaron Rodgers, and I think he's more mobile. I think Lockett on the outside and DK Metcalf are going to be good to go. I think their running back situation isn't even a factor because, again, Russell is smart. He's been there before. He's got playoff experience. He's won a Super Bowl. Same with Pete Carroll. I'm not downing Green Bay. I just think that Seattle plus 4.5 points is too much. I'm taking the Seattle Seahawks to actually win the game, but I'll take the 4.5 points.
So with all that being said, I'm going to go with Green Bay to win this game. I'm going Green Bay minus the 4, just simply because people have slept on Green Bay's defense this year. Green Bay's defense has basically been the catalyst of actually keeping them in a lot of games and them actually winning a lot of games. So I'm going with Green Bay minus the 4.
ESPN's Football Power Index gives Seattle a 33% chance of winning. Is there something wrong with that? And they're only getting 4 points, and yet they have a 33% chance of winning?
No, I don't think
I think Pete Carroll's been there before, and everybody can throw out, well, you should have given it to beast mode and some of his decision-making.
Right.
But, we're talking about the outliers of his career. He won at USC. He's turned around the Seattle franchise. He's been a perennial winner there. They don't even have the Legion of Boom anymore, and they're still in the playoffs, and we're the second best team, I think, in the NFC. Yeah. And I kind of think they're getting undersold going into Green Bay. And now Green Bay is a solid team, but I think this is two solid teams. And if I'm going to take Pete Carroll over a rookie coach, I'm going to do that. And if I'm going to take a Russell Wilson who has just as good an arm as Aaron Rodgers and he's more mobile, I'm going to do that. That's the way it breaks down to me. I just think Seattle's going to take that. So I've got Minnesota plus the points. I've got Baltimore and KC straight up, and I'm taking Seattle plus the points to win and hopefully go 8-0 on my playoff picks. Hey, if you want to be a part of the show, there's a lot of ways to do it. You can get in on us live here on YouTube right now. You can reach us at the show. thefirstrroundrd@gmail.com. We'll take comments and questions and answer them throughout the show. Or you can join us on Twitter at thefirstraund1 is where you can reach us. We want to thank everybody that has subscribed. We've got almost 60 new subscribers just in the last week. It's been awesome. We've met a lot of great people. And say thank you to everybody out there who's joined the First Round family here in the St. Jude studios. We appreciate you watching. Tell your friends about it and help grow the First Round to epic proportions. Getting on to college football. If you had to write a script about Georgia football and you were going to comprise it all down into one day, it would be a horror film today. Yeah. Because one of their great ambassadors and great players that's played in Georgia for the past couple years, Jake Fromm, is going on to the NFL. So let's just camp on that one for a minute. I have said before, I think that Jake Fromm is a smart, intelligent, effective quarterback. I do not think he's explosive, and I don't think he has the strongest arm in the world. I think he's a second-round draft pick. I don't think he's a generational quarterback, but he's a guy that you can bring in and groom, and there's been a lot of quarterbacks that aren't at the top of their game talent-wise in the NFL that have won. We look at guys that have won the Super Bowl like Trent Dilfer. Wasn't the most awesome, physically gifted guy, but he got on a team with a okay offense and a really good defense and was able to take them to the highest mountain in the whole range. They won the Super Bowl. So I think he's a second-round guy, but it's going to be a ding for them because whoever they bring in to replace him, they're going to be on the button day one.
Yeah, pretty much. I don't know what happened with Georgia. I mean, they've lost a lot. I mean, they took a big hit this week. I mean, they had, they picked up, a 5-star cornerback and they picked up a 5-star tight end, but they lost the main catalyst of their team with Jake Fromm. So it's going to be interesting to see how Georgia go forward next year.
Yeah, they've got their backup is Stetson Bennett, who hasn't really literally had any time at quarterback at all, any experience. He hasn't done spit. He's supposed to be a really talented guy, and I guess we're going to find out really quick how good he's going to be. Then, more news out. Offensive lineman for Georgia, Cade Mays, enters the transfer portal to go to Tennessee, and I thought, I wonder why this guy's going to Tennessee. And then I found out his younger brother, Cooper, signed on at Tennessee. So that might be one of the reasons he's going. So he's going to be at Tennessee, so you lose your center. And then they lost the number one running back coming out of Texas, 5-star running back, Zachary Evans. Not only did they release him, they released him unconditionally. So he didn't. They're releasing him from his signed letter of intent, and he can go anywhere. He can go to LSU. He can go to Texas A&M. He can go anywhere. So that, to me, is not a great day if you're a Georgia fan right now. I'm not super concerned. I just think it's not good news, and you've got to start planning now for what you're doing at the most important position on the field, which is quarterback for next year.
Yeah, I'm not as concerned about that running back. If they released him that way, unconditional, there has to be something in the milk doesn't sound clean if somebody gives you a full release.
Right.
So
yeah, and I think Kirby's a super smart guy.
Right. And
so there might be something behind it, but I don't want to go down that road of doom because we don't know.
Right.
And I am never one for, really bad talking young kids that much. I don't want to go get all Gundy, and say, come after me, not the kid.
Right.
But, we don't know what's going on, and I hope it's not something stupid.
Right.
But he'll land on his feet someplace.
Yes.
And, I sent out a tweet today, and I just said, with all this stuff going on today with Georgia football, it seems that the gap, however big or small it was between Georgia and Florida, just got a little bit tighter. And you would have thought that I blasphemed against Georgia football to all the Georgia fans that are in this circle that I have on Twittersphere. I mean, it was like, why are you bad-mouthing us? Bad-mouthing what? You lost your quarterback, you lost a 5-star guy, and you lost your offensive lineman who had 14 starts for you last year. That's all. I just said that the gap has gotten a little closer. I didn't say that we overcame Georgia as a Gator fan. which I'm not even that much of a Gator fan anymore, even though I went to school there. My kids are all named after Gator football players.
You sure?
I love college football more than I love the Gators. I just love good college football. I just think that the gap has gotten closer. I still think Georgia is a dominant top 10 team, even with all these losses. And I still think Florida is going to end the season this year ranked in the top 10 and start next year's season ranked in the top 10. And, it'll really come down to an awesome game in Jacksonville next year to see who wins the East. That's my prediction.
Yeah, I mean, looking at what Georgia's lost and what Florida has gained this year, I mean, it's more question marks on that Georgia side than it is on that Florida side. I mean, you're looking, you said Florida lost wide receivers, but, I mean, they still have veteran receivers there. You still have players like Jacob Copeland there. You still have Pitts there. I mean, you have other players there that can help fill in those gaps with Kyle Trask. So, to me, it's more questions on the Georgia side than it is the Florida.
Well, I think the big question on the Florida side, and we talked about this a couple days ago, is what are you doing at wide receiver? You lost 5 guys at wide receiver. Your best receiver that's coming back is Pitts, your tight end. And, that's really hard. We've been up on campus the last couple of days talking to, as the students are starting to come back. And a lot of them are like, I'm wondering how dialed in they are because like, oh, no, we're going to be fine next year. You just lost 5 wide receivers. Well, five guys with, good talent. Cleveland, I mean, they lost a lot of talent on that side, and you don't just replace 5 guys like that. So I'm mildly concerned about how much they lost on the offensive side of the ball, but I still think Florida's going to be solid.
Yeah, as much as I hate to admit it, but I think Florida's getting to that point where they're not just losing. They're not losing receivers. They're just reloading. I think it's gotten to that point where Mullen has found his groove in finding these receivers like a Freddie Swain that came out of Ocala. I mean, I believe he's gotten to that point where he can find these little gems in little small cities and stuff like this that come in that can fill in those gaps. So I think Florida is just really reloading. I really don't see it's going to be too big of a drop-off for Florida wide receiver next year.
Yeah, it's definitely Florida and Georgia in the East. Let's get on to wrapping up the bowl season. Yeah. We've got 1 game left. We're really going to break that one down on Sunday night. We're going to move to a new time. Instead of Sunday mornings, we're going to be here in the First Round St. Jude Studios at Sunday night. I just think it's just going to be a better show. Sunday morning is just so hard to do. You wake up, there's possibly traffic trying to get to the studio, and you're not 100% there. So Sunday, we're going to absolutely break down the championship game and wrapping up everything else that's gone on. If I said to you, what conference did the best this bowl season, who would you say and what would their record be?
As much as I hate to say it, it's the SEC. And I'll say their record was 7-2.
7-2, yeah. The SEC was 7-2. Now, if I asked you who was the worst conference out of all the bowl games, who would you say?
Big 12.
It is the Big 12. Yeah, the Big 12 went 1-5.
Oh, God.
Texas beating Utah. That's the only win the Big 12 had. And what did I say when we started the Bowl Mania show? Go back onto YouTube and check out our archives. The Bowl Mania show, I said the stupidest, craziest, hardest games to pick against the spread happen in the bowl games.
Yeah.
Because there's the most freakish outcomes.
Yeah.
They happen in the bowl games. And Texas, if I said to you, any team in the Big 12 that's playing, there's 6 of them, who's going to have the win?
I wouldn't have picked Texas.
I wouldn't have picked Texas either, but Texas was it.
Yeah.
That's what's so crazy about it. Texas got the win. ACC went 4-6. SEC went 7-2. The only 2 losses, Mississippi State and Auburn in a close game against Minnesota. By the way, your man here had Minnesota plus the points. Big 10. They had 9 games. How do you think they did?
Big 10, 4-5?
That's exactly what they did. They went 4-5. The Big 10 went 4-5, and the Big 12 went 1-5. Very, very, very disappointing. I don't know. Oklahoma is, I thought Oklahoma, I don't know what I was thinking, if I was even thinking that they could keep it close. I had Oklahoma plus 19.5 in a championship game with one of the most incredible offenses that I've seen in a long time. And they still get whitewashed by LSU. So I want to leave the LSU Clemson talk to the Sunday night show and leave it for there and get into men's hoops right now. Kentucky gets it done yesterday against SEC foe Georgia, who's been having a good season, 78-69. How about Florida moving to 10-4, getting a good road win over South Carolina last night, 81-68. And we started talking the other day and got into a heated argument that I won about smaller schools and bringing in, how do you change the culture of thinking? Which brings me to San Diego State, who A, is now in the top 10. They're ranked 7th in the AP. And B, they're also undefeated. But nobody outside of San Diego probably even recognizes or knows this. Why is that, Chris?
Because it's San Diego State. I mean, it's not a big name school. It's not going to get a lot of publicity. And then on top of that, it's on the West Coast. And it's unfortunate. Unless you're Gonzaga, you're really not going to get pressed for being a good team on the West Coast, unfortunately.
Yeah, and we talked about the problem is recruiting. And I still think, you could get a Marshall Faulk you can get an Oz Hakeem into San Diego State. These guys had great college careers, and then they went on to, play in the pros at a high level.
Right.
But I think it comes down to changing the culture of thinking, and you got to bring in a lightning rod. If you want to have a winner, you got to throw some money at somebody that's already proven and done it. Like, Utah really had never done spit before Urban Meyer got there.
Right. And
he turned them around. So it's something like that where it's a young guy who's going to give a fresh attitude and a new look. You throw some money at him and you say, look, we want to win. We're not going to win next year, but within a year or two, we want to start being in the conversation for national championships. And again, another one that I gave you is Chris Peterson coming in and turning around at Boise State. I think how about App State? App State wasn't spit until 8 years ago, and they knocked off Michigan at the Big House, and then it's been a slow, steady climb. That they compete against lower-end colleges on a higher level. Yeah,
I mean, with basketball, you have to be able to find somebody like what's the name of the guy? Brad, Boston Celtics,
Brad Stevens.
Brad Stevens. You have to be able to find a young coach like Brad Stevens that's going to be able to go into a house of a Gordon Hayward that's probably nobody never really heard of, besides like one or two schools in Indiana or something like that, and be able to bring him to your team to be able to get that one key player that will be able to recruit for you. And I think that will be the key to turning around one of those programs. But you have to be able to find at least that one star. And I believe with a lot of those smaller schools, that's the issue that they're having is, you have a good coach that has a strong and, a great culture, but they're not able to pull that one star that can help them recruit.
Yeah, you know what? Hats off. When I thought that when Steve Fisher left SDSU, I actually took my dad to a game at the arena there, the Viejas Arena, or I don't know what it's called now, for his birthday or his Christmas gift. I think a year ago. Yeah, it was probably a year ago. I think it was a year ago. And it's a great arena. Right. The crowd was pretty into it. They had a pretty good sized crowd there, and I hope that I like it when small schools rise up like that.
Right.
But like I said the other day, if I'm a part of the fan base and you're paying somebody even at a mid-level or lower-level school $1 million, $2 million a year, the more money you pay, the greater the expectation is. I can't be caught in mediocrity. That's why Ron Zook had to go, and he didn't go fast enough, and neither did Will Muschamp. You can't lose to Georgia Southern or some directional school on homecoming at home in the swamp, and then keep your job for another 9 months. I mean, it just can't happen. I have a high standard,
right?
Higher than most people, but most people aren't as fanatic about sports as I am.
Right.
So, we have a new segment on the show. We're going to do trivia. All right? Mm-hmm. Now, here's the deal. If you lose the trivia question each week, the next show, you're going to have to wear some gear that I've got. So it's we're not putting any Yankee. The hat will come off. The Yankee disgrace of garbage will be coming off. And you'll have to wear a Celtics or Patriots or Red Sox or some kind. I'll have you wear the Gator helmet if you really want to get smug on me. But if you correctly answer the trivia question, what's that right there?
Oh, that's a Mr. Benjamin.
That is a $100 bill in cash that I will hand to you.
Hey, let's go.
Now, these are not going to be easy questions because the odds are very much favored. You're $100 versus wearing some gear.
Yeah.
So they're going to be difficult questions. Yeah. So I'm going to start you off with there's no way you're going to get this question, but you don't have to wear gear this time. This is just a warm-up, and I went to the most extreme. The harder the question, I'll give you a little more leeway each week.
Okay.
But this is a hard one. Okay. The NFL commissions a certain amount of balls every single year for every single team.
Right.
All right. So you guys start working the math. Like, how many balls does each team get that are official balls that can be used, and they get air tested and all the rest of that stuff, right?
Right.
So here's the question. Now, this is just a sample, and it's a bizarre sample, but I'm going to give you a 50. You can be within 50, higher or lower, of what the actual answer is. How many cows does it take to supply the NFL with all the leather they need? Now, this is a bizarre question. They're not going to be like this every week, but we're not playing for $100 this week. But if you actually answer this question within 50, one way or the other, I will give you that $100 bill sitting on the desk right there.
Okay.
How many cows does it take to supply the NFL with enough leather to supply all the footballs that they condone and say you can use?
How many cows?
Yep.
Ooh, that's a lot of cowhides. Let's see.
You can come within 50, one way or the other, and you're going to win that $100 bill right there. Or you're going to have to wear some gear. But if you don't hit this one, you don't have to wear the gear. This is a bizarre question. I would never ask a question like this.
I'm going to say...
Okay, you're going to have a 10-second buzzer.
150.
150. The actual answer is 3,000 cows have to pay the ultimate price.
3,000 cows.
3,000 cows have to pay the ultimate price every single year to supply the NFL.
Those balls aren't that big.
There's a lot of balls that are out there, man.
Jeez.
I mean, how many of these guys are scored touchdowns and throwing them up into the end zone?
Man, are you talking about the ones that's in the store too?
Miniature ball? No. It's 3,000.
That's a lot of cows.
That is a lot of cows.
Wow.
So, now, I gave you one the other week. I said, who's the only guy to win? What was it? Frank Robinson.
Frank Robinson, yeah.
Yeah, what was the trivia quote? We got Frank Robinson behind you on your right there.
He was the only person to win MVP in both
American
leagues,
League
American
and
League, National League.
Yeah. So that will be more along the line of the questions I'm going to be asking. I'll give you another one. And it's not even a trivia question. It's just a piece of trivia.
Right.
So who is the all-time home run leader? The real home run leader.
The real home run leaders, to me, still is Hank Aaron.
That's what I say. It's Hank Aaron, right? But if you take all his home runs away, nobody thinks of anything except home runs with Hank Aaron.
Yeah.
If you take all his home runs away, he still has 3,000 hits.
Exactly.
I tell people that are baseball fans, and they don't believe me.
Yeah, he still has
3,000 hits. Yeah. Okay. Finishing up in college basketball, I couldn't believe this story. Did any of you happen to see what Roy Williams said after his game on Sunday? North Carolina is currently 8-6. We don't expect that from a North Carolina team because they're a perennial winner. They're a big blue blood school. They have Jordan and Perkins and Worthy and all these guys that have played there in the past. And we just expect dominance. It's just like, Duke. It doesn't matter who leaves. Next year, it's next man up, and you got to be in the top 10.
Yeah.
They're 8-6. They're not having a good season. And Sunday, Roy Williams, the head coach of UNC, didn't have a good day. He was asked about the trials and tribulations of his UNC Tar Heels and why they're having such a tough year. Why are you 8-6? How come you're not producing? He said, it's the least talented team I have ever coached. Now, you're talking about 18, 19, 20-year-old guys that have families and parents that hear this type of stuff. Do you think that motivated them? Or is that something that you might want to just be a little more diplomatic about and not actually take the poker out of the fire and brand somebody with it? Because to come out and say something like that, when I heard that, I just, like, I couldn't even believe that he would say something like that because he's not an outlandish guy. But to come out and say this is the least talented team I've ever coached, that is a lightning rod comment. And what makes it even worse is the fact that I'm almost 50 and Roy Williams has been coaching basketball since I was a fetus. So you're talking about a lot of teams, dozens of years in coaching, hundreds of wins, and he comes out and says this is the least talented team I've ever coached. Chris, ball's in your court on that one, pal.
I think Dean Smith is in his grave and he rolled his eyes and he turned over. Like, what were you thinking?
Were you thinking?
You know, comments like that can cause a ripple effect in college basketball. When you have coaches that come out and say things like this, I mean, we have a situation in college basketball where we have the one and done situation. You have kids that are now leaving to go overseas to play basketball, right, and then come back
and they get qualified through the NBA and come back.
And come back to the draft.
Right.
So why would you make a comment like this that could hurt your program?
What do you think those parents are? Because he had to go into the houses of these families and say, hey, give me your 18-year-old baby.
Exactly.
I'm going to bring him up here. I'm going to get him ready for the NBA. He's going to get an education. Right. We're going to teach him how to be a man. By the way, when it doesn't go very good, I'm going to put him and lump him with all the rest of the losers and say that this is the least talented team I've ever coached. You know what I have to say about that?
Exactly.
There you go. There goes that comment right there. You just shouldn't have said that. You got to take it on the chin as the head coach. You got to be more diplomatic than that. And maybe you should have had a little bit of a drink to cool the edge off instead of saying that. And here's to this.
Yeah, I mean, to me, it's one of those situations where you have these players that are playing their heart out for you. They come, to your institution to play for you.
Right, and these families are trusting you.
And they're trusting your family.
With their child.
Exactly. I mean, you got to think. I mean, what do you think about some of these kids whose parents are, well-known or, athletes that have come before? Like he still has Kenny Smith's son that's playing on the team. You had Greg Anthony's son, Cole Anthony, who was out with an injury. He played on his team. So when you have players like this and you have lineage like this that's playing on your team, a lot of these players are going to be like,
how many phone calls do you think were on his voicemail Monday morning?
I mean, how many people have decided to not take that trip to down Tobacco Road to Carolina and go on up to Durham?
Yeah, you step into your office on Monday morning as head coach Roy Williams at North Carolina and you hit the button to listen to your message. It's like, sir, this is Johnny's dad.
Exactly.
And then I don't even want to hear the rest of it. So that's what's going on in the world of sports. Chris, what else is going on in the world of sports?
Well, to get off of that horrible note of Roy Williams, man, shout out to Trey Young for the Atlanta Hawks, partnering up with an organization up in Atlanta to pay off $1 million worth of medical debt for people that are living in poverty who most of their income, is going towards their medical bills. So definitely a big shout out to Trey Young.
How much did he give?
He gave $10,000 from his foundation.
Yeah.
And it partnered up with an organization out of Atlanta to pay $1 million worth of medical debts for people that are living in poverty in Atlanta.
Good for him.
Yes, and
good for him.
Definitely, then a big shout out to Josh Jacobs for the Oakland Raiders running back.
Is this your second story?
Second story.
I read this one yesterday. Yes, I don't want to steal your thunder.
Yes, definitely. Big shout out to Josh Jacobs. Josh Jacobs basically was homeless at one point, and he decided to go ahead and purchase a home for his dad. As they both were homeless, living in their car. So definitely, it's something that we all want to get out and do. To take care of our parents. But yeah, definitely a big shout out.
I read that Josh Jacobs story yesterday, and he was hurt some of the year. I think he should have been in the running for Rookie of the Year, and he probably will be for the Raiders. He's a shining light on the field, but this stuff off the field, I love it. I say 2 thumbs up. Speaking of thumbs up, if you love the show, subscribe to us today. Hit the notification button every time we're on, twice a week live. If you can't see us live, you can get us in our archives. But that music can mean only one thing. It's time to thank our support staff. The man on the board, Ray Boom Boom Mancini. My co-host, Chris Roberts, right here live in our St. Jude studios. El Presidente Chet 40 for everyone here at the first round. We say Sunday night. We will be back here live on YouTube telling you about everything going on in the world of sports and helping you to be smarter than your friends. Until then, take care, everybody.